Good evening, everybody. Welcome. As you see, we put up the agenda for tonight's meeting. And again, we're going to get started in just another couple more minutes, and I promise this time. But while we're waiting, you'll see after the welcome, we wanted to welcome everybody to welcome to 2024, first and foremost, and then welcome to our January CAC Plus community meeting. The first item on the agenda is, as you know, each meeting we try to start with an icebreaker, so we have the opportunity to get to know everyone a little better. And the icebreaker question, which I want you all to spend a couple minutes thinking about, is what 2024 CAC Plus accomplishment would be most important for you. And as at every meeting, we provide Spanish interpretation. So I'm gonna have Francisco say a couple words, and then you'll be able to select the language of your choice at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, no,
Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you that haven't gotten a chance to use this service, you can click on the globe on the bottom right of your screen and select the language of your choice. Bienvenidos a todos. Para aquellos de ustedes que no han tenido la oportunidad de utilizar el servicio de interpretación, pueden hacerlo seleccionando el globito en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla y escoger el idioma de su preferencia. Muchas gracias. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you. Gracias. And I'm going to select English for us here in the room, and then we do have the equipment if anyone would like to use the equipment. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over the meeting to our wonderful facilitator, Catherine Archuleta.
Hi, everybody. Glad to see you. Happy 2024. Oh, make myself louder.
Yes,
And
everyone
give
please,
me a
yes.
signal.
Louder,
I
please.
I didn't know what it was. So I'm glad to see everybody here this evening, and we have a great agenda, a lot of updates, and hopefully we'll be able to reach consensus on our final language. So as you're thinking about what the 2024 CAC accomplishment would be most important for you, I'll just review the agenda for you. We'll have community updates, and we're really happy that we can have the opportunity here in the room as well on Zoom to share what's happening in the community and to give you some updates on things that are coming about. Also, Steve's going to update us on the Equestrian Center. We're going to talk a little bit about the success of the stock show events, and we'll then spend the rest of the evening on the roles and responsibilities and reaching consensus on the final language. I think you have several documents in your files, probably overloaded with them now, but we're really glad that we'll have the opportunity to hopefully reach consensus on that final language. So as we move to the first agenda item, again, just a quick, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but as we start 2024, we thought it would be a great.
Closed in a quarter mile.
Well,
Your route has been updated. Proceed to the route.
you've arrived.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
I tried to get a shortcut here and it didn't work. So she's still, my Siri is still roaming around.
I did, I'll be honest, I took the shortcut. I feel like as a neighbor, whenever I see that gate open, I'm like, and I have a truck, I'm like, can't get stuck, the gate is open. I'm gonna make it through, so I'll be honest.
Okay. So, just a few words about what you think would be a big accomplishment for us in 2024, just so we can have a perspective of what you're hoping for in 2024. So, let me see, Anthony or Steve, who's ever, I can't see anybody on the screen. Sure.
You may stop.
Okay, so let's start out with the folks in the Zoom room, and perhaps Mike, what are your hopes for the work that we do in 2024?
Well, from NUCO's perspective, I hope and intend to make sure that we have continue to have a presence here and can bring a higher level of transparency on what we're doing as NewCo, and to the extent that we can also facilitate updates from others, the city, Dottie, other folks, to make sure that this group is getting the most current information on roadway improvements and sidewalks and the laundry list of things that need to happen. I'd be happy to help facilitate that and hope that we can end the year with a better understanding of what the city's doing.
How about Lori from Focus Points? Lori, any aspirations for us this year? Nope. Angela? Garcia? I
Yes.
have a sense of what it might be, but go ahead.
Of course you do. I would like increased collaboration and communication with the community.
Thank you. Let's see, AE? I can't hear you, AE. I see you're not on mute, but I can't hear you. Okay, we'll come back to you. Just so, 'cause I know sometimes AE, your mic gets mixed up, but we'll keep trying. Fernando.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. I think I will join similar to Angela. I think a way to know and feel that there are another 500 community members that they know what we are up to and they want to play, and they know what are the things happening in their community, and they are excited to participate in whatever they are feeling about how things are going, but they are engaged.
Thank you. Back to Lori. Lori? I hope for continued collaboration. Thanks, Lori. And AE? Still no mic. Thanks, AE. How about you, Joe Henry? That was a quick transition, right?
Come back to me. I was reading something, I was reading an email. Can you come back to me later?
Okay.
Thank you.
How about you, Steve?
Sure, there are a number of things I know that the community wants to accomplish in 2024, and there are a number of things that the authority and the campus we want to accomplish here, and I look forward to working together on both of those items.
Great.
Hi, looking forward to start year with great collaboration, and as a new neighbor, keep learning more about processes and what it takes to develop a great community. Thank you.
Sunny?
I will echo what so many of my community partners have said. I think especially I'm interested in process development and transparency around that, so that people can follow along, whether they come to CAC meetings or they aren't looped in directly, that they can see how A got to B got to C. I think that would really help build a lot of trust.
Yes, continued engagement, collaboration, and identification of mutual goals and onboard.
Hi, I'm Alma Urbano with CSU Spur.
Now you're new.
I'm new to this role. I'm not new to the.
Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
And I also want to see more transparency and collaboration and to learn what this is.
How about you, Ann?
Well, I agree with everyone about more collaboration, outreach, getting more community members involved. But I do want to say, one of our big goals is to finish all this paperwork. I would love to get past this so that we can start talking
Yes.
about issues.
Hopefully that will be tonight. How about you, Sandra?
Yo creo que para mí sería lo mismo que han estado hablando, la colaboración con la comunidad, ah, ver que hay más comunidad envuelta en todos los programas, en todo lo que está pasando. Igual también, con todos los que estamos en estas reuniones, que haya un entendimiento y un acuerdo en las cosas que se hacen, que no se tarde tanto el proceso, porque siento que a veces nos tardamos mucho y cosas importantes se quedan atrás. Entonces, poder tener un mejor entendimiento entre nosotros para que las cosas puedan fluir más rápido, para que a beneficio de la comunidad.
Well, I believe, and I think that just like, many people have mentioned, the same point about collaboration from the community. With more participation from the community, we can get more things done. I wish for things not to take as long as they do, because what ends up happening is that we leave important things behind. So I think that if we accomplish these things, we're gonna get more participation or more direct participation from the community.
Anthony,
Good evening, everybody. I appreciate what everyone has shared. You know, I echo, collaboration and partnership. Continue to learn, what the needs are of the community and not, perceive we know what those needs are, to ask the community. I just recently joined the board of the Denver North Business Association, so I definitely want to spend some time focusing on our businesses in GES and try to incorporate them into what we're doing here as well.
Armando, I see you joined. We're answering the question, what would you like to achieve in 2024 with the CAC? Or what we hope the CAC achieves in 2024?
Well, I think there's a multiple of things, I'll give you an example. One of the things that UCAN, United Community Action Network, in conjunction with JSI, and JSI is Jack Snow Institute, and ANCOS is Accelerate Neighborhood Community Action. We're meeting with one of the schools, local high schools. It's called Colorado Charter High School, and it's a school right adjacent to Bruce Randolph School. And one of the things that we're working on with the school is environmental action plans. They're bringing a group of students. The school got an award to do environmental preservation or outlook within GES, and they have a class of students that are working on that. And we are going to help them develop community action plans. So that's an example. I'd like to see some type of engagement, but an engagement with the plan. I mean, a lot of the things that we do at the National Western, it's come together and things are shared, ideas are shared and stuff like that. But very often I don't see, like an action plan coming about. And so you can get accomplishments, get milestones, get things set up. I mean, sure, the hotel's being done, the parking garage, yeah, those things are being done. And I'll give you another example, like the National Western Stock Show. Okay, we know that it's coming up. We know that they give free tickets out, but how do we get the community engaged to get access to those tickets? Another example is that JSI, they were just awarded $55 million in terms of environmental action and in terms of environmental action plans. Well, a lot of that money, it's going to be distributed throughout Region 8. The National Western, part of its nonprofit, can also apply for those funds as a community engagement part. So some of those nonprofit things that are out there can also, so we're not just going to the National Western with their hands out to see how we can collaborate, but bring our own funding to the table and bring our own resources, and then collaboratively put some ideas and concepts together with some milestones, and those things can be accomplished.
Thank you. Thank you, Armando. Andrew Henry.
I think the, further expansion or, communication with the business industry. There's so many people that would, have no idea that I know who own businesses in this area or what's happening here or generally speaking.
Thank you. So lots of common words as we wrap this up, collaboration, making sure that our process is leading to action, increased participation, including the business community and others in the community. So a lot of good ideas, and we'll certainly, I'm paying attention to what you've just shared so that as we move through this year's meetings that we're focused in on these types of aspirations for all of us. So thank you very much for taking a moment to just think about that. As we look at the agenda, the next item is community updates, and I'm wondering, are there members of the community that have updates that they wish to share?
I have some community updates. So we have the EGS and Partners is doing 3 different programs in the community. We have the cooking program, which is a 32-week program. It's gonna be for 18 people. They already did the test, they already got certificated. It's gonna start in April 8th. Right now, what we're doing is fundraising. So we're doing 12 fundraising to be able to get all the money so they can get it for free. Since it's $15,000 per each student, it's gonna be free for them. So we're trying to raise all the money possible. And it's gonna be led by Chef Paulo Aya, which is the Executive Director of MasterChef Mexico, and other chefs that are gonna be invited too. Then we have the leadership program for women, which is a 13-week program and is for Hispanic women that live in the community. And also we're trying to get funding for that program. And then we have another program, which is Alianza Eco Mujeres, which is a group of women that is gonna be recollecting new data about everything that is happening in our neighborhoods. Being part of the health study, we've seen that the data we have is really old. All the studies that have been done is really old. So we created this program where same neighbors are gonna be knocking on doors and asking a bunch of questions. For that, we also doing, we're doing fundraising. The program probably is gonna take us about a year. This is gonna be knocking on doors to each households in the 3 neighborhoods. Also those 3 programs not only bring opportunity to the community, but we also giving jobs to the community. And not only that, we're creating business people in the community because the cooking program, the leadership program is for women and for adults. But the idea is that they all become business people after the program. April 30th, we're gonna have the Dia de los Niños. Also, probably it's gonna be a Valdez or Johnson's. I'm still waiting for confirmation. And Dia de los Niños, we celebrated in Mexico, which is, ¿qué es el Día del Niño en inglés?
Day of the Child, but it doesn't exist.
Aquí, it doesn't exist here, but since we bring in our culture here, the last, January 6th, we had the Dia de los Reyes, which we also celebrate in Mexico. Thanks to Joe and the, ¿cómo se llama? Civic Partners, Global Civic Partners who helped us raise a lot of, ¿cómo se dice? Toys. The National Western Authority, the Stack Show. We had like 3-something toys, almost 400 toys that we gave away. Valdez Library. Confuse all the addresses. Anthony was there, and a lot of families came. We registered, but we also had people just walking in, and also we gave toys to the kids that come to the library, since there's a lot of kids that they always go to the library. There's kids from the streets that
they don't have nowhere to go, so they go to the libraries. We gave toys to them too. So it was really nice that we were able to give all those toys away. Hopefully next year we can give more. So we try to bring those traditions and our culture to the neighborhood. And we are very thankful to everyone that is been sponsoring, that is been donating, that is being given to our communities. I think we are in a place where everyone wants to help now, that everyone wants to cooperate. So one of the things I forgot at the icebreaker is that it will be nice that the community knows all the businesses that we have here. Have that connection with all the businesses. I think we all need each other. ¿Qué otra cosa me falta? I think that's all.
Okay, that was great. Thank you very much. Other updates from the community?
So the Tierra Colectiva Community Land Trust is in its final stretch of acquiring 4790 Josephine to make a food forest. There's still a little bit of ways to go. We got some support from Denver Parks Trust, from Metro DNA, from Columbia Ventures, which is the developer of Vinia Apartments. And so we're really lucky there. We just sent out another reminder for partners that are interested in supporting that. However, if your interest in support was tamale related, our navegadoras are gonna start another tamale telephone for tamales. So if you're interested in more tamales before the end of February, let me know. And we'll be doing that again because it's funny, I did the fundraiser again and people were like, yeah, that's great. I'll give you money. Do you have more tamales? So I heard that. And so the ladies are cooking up a good batch and I'm very thankful for their efforts. I'm trying to think if there's anything else related front of mind.
Tell me what a food forest is.
Sure, the food forest idea, so our partner for that would be Denver Urban Gardens. I'm forgetting the other locations where they have, but the idea is to have an open, unfenced area where there would be annual trees that would grow food. And they would be food that thrives in the area, as well as strategically designed helper plants, right? That add nitrogen to the soil, perennials. So there's a lot of medicinal families in the area, and just culturally, as Sandra mentioned, like bringing the culture here, they grow plants that do really well in Denver and that have medicinal and amazing cooking properties as well. And to have them be able to have a space where they can just plant in the ground without signing up for a garden box, without asking anyone for permission is going to be really amazing. And then there will be 1/4 of that land will have some community space, whether that's a shaded, sheltered area, an area for neighbors to exchange those vegetables and other items, or just to sit in community. But yeah, it was, what happened was we're preserving homes and trying to find affordable housing, but so many neighbors were like, yeah, but what about that abandoned lot? It's not big enough for affordable housing. Can we keep it green though?
Yeah.
Rather than just having it become a parking lot or something like that. So this was our solution to that, and hopefully many other food forests will pop up across our neighborhood in lots that otherwise are not maybe clean enough or safe enough to be healthy. Yeah, it's terrific. Thank you for asking.
Amy texted that, or posted in the chat that she believes her microphone is working now. If we want to go back, so she has a chance to answer the question
Yes.
in the icebreaker,
Oh, great.
if she would like to.
Okay, AE, I'm glad your microphone is working.
More to test that than anything. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Can you still hear me now? I put my earphones in. Can you
Yes,
still
we
hear
still-
me? Okay. Sorry about that. My Chrome crashed. I would just hope that this committee could achieve, and I apologize if I'm repeating what the people I missed said, a deeper, more congruous continuity, process of continuity and integrity in the transparency, and just a much greater continuity of depth engagement. Somebody mentioned something about 500 people being aware of what's going on, and there's numerous thousands of people in the 3 most directly impacted neighborhoods. So whatever the relativity is, we've got a massive field to cover here. but mostly the transparency, continuity of process, and the depth of and standards. And we'll talk about some of that, I'm sure, with the document that we're working on. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Dave. Any other community announcements? Anybody in the Zoom rooms?
Oh, I have a cooking workshop.
You have to speak up really loud. Thanks, Alma.
With CSU Fair, we have a cooking workshop on corn coming up. It's a series of workshops to celebrate the culture of the community. They're in Spanish and English, and I can flyers. I can share a PDF to the contact list if that's also helpful.
Tortillas and culture.
Yes.
Great. Okay, and we can put that in the,
Yes, and
I just,
okay.
I had a question back to members of the community, if they're aware, and perhaps this is for you, Mike Bouchard, of the status of the park at 44th and
Pearl.
Pearl.
Mhm.
Do we know what's going on there? I saw an article and I saw TBD.
Sure. So 44th and Pearl should be closing. I don't know if it already closed. Denver Parks Trust contributed the gap that Denver Parks and Recreation needed to acquire the adjacent land, but it all got approved by city real estate. So that's good and final. We met with the director, I forget, I always call him something else, of Parks and Recreation, and they confirmed that that will be a Denver park. Now, because of general city budget cuts, that won't be a park until an estimated, do you want to guess on that?
Wait,
10 years?
Oh, that was, you got a good, we can make you feel better, 5 years, so don't worry. We'll just jump into our next decade bracket, but not that bad. So in 5 years, in the meantime, we're negotiating an agreement where perhaps local organizations can be the activators for the site rather than individuals having to go get a permit to use this corner cemented lot. And then Denver Parks and Rec will do some light, high-level cleanup of the area, basic small tree, above ground plantings to kind of start prepping the area, but it will be basically just kind of used for community events like that Harvest Festival that they had and other things like that. Nothing is in writing and official, but I can tell you from my conversations there that I know that they're if they haven't already closed, that it's already done.
So closed as in they're purchasing additional land. to
Yeah,
make
the
park bigger.
purchase and, yes.
Is the business that was next door
To the,
right?
to the north.
Yeah, like a tire, I forget, like tire or something like that, and so they had reached out to her years ago and she wasn't interested, but then she wasn't operating, so then they just approached her again. And she said yes, that she's happy that as long as it goes to community. So it looks like that's great, and there will be community process around that. Again, nothing in writing, so I don't know what those next steps are just yet about what do we want it to be. Some people were saying like, we want some kind of dog park, because there's a vet spot right there, but then, of course, other partners know, well, grass is really difficult to maintain, so that'll take a long time. We have plenty of time to do it, but of course, it's gonna need a lot of fundraising, a lot of investment, and the sooner we can get those dollars, the sooner we can have that park, but at least it's gonna be a park. It's for real, so.
And then the 5-year timeline
Is for when
to
Denver,
build the actual.
exactly.
Have the process, build the park.
Yeah, so
Okay.
by the 5-year mark is when they expect build out, so they will have to, apparently Denver Parks processes, they always hire a designer specifically for a park to design based on community needs, et cetera, and whatever happens there, so. Should be
So
interesting.
it could start in 3.
Correct, it could start in 3, the process,
right.
but we won't see we won't be able to play on it as a park. Although our neighbors will, are happy to activate it, and there's already some pots and benches and different pieces there, and so it'll at least be in use, which is the most important piece.
do you know, so a couple years ago, once Colorado Village Collaborative, the tiny home moved,
Mhm.
we worked with Parks and Recreation to allow the community to use that space. And so there was an agreement with Global First.
Mhm.
But I know that they're not operating at the
Mhm.
moment. So is there some other community entity that's going to be working with Parks and Rec?
Yeah, so it was Birdseed was the other one. So most recently they used it for their Harvest
Yeah,
Festival.
exactly.
And so, yes, that's
Okay,
exactly the
great.
partnership. And I think that we're just trying to add a few more, to your point, active organizations, just to be able to say, we, in case Birdseed can't answer the call, can't answer a neighbor request, can we offload some of that so that the neighbors can continue to use it?
I will say, Scott Gilmore, who
Yeah.
we've worked with a couple of years ago, he is, I mean, I talked to him about it, he's very passionate about the project and it becoming a pocket park and that they got that additional land, so I think that at least we have some positive inroads into city process to, you know, to continue to activate the space as often as the community would like.
I think Angela wanted to make a comment. Angela?
Yes, I do.
And then-
Thank you. One of the things with 4400 Pearl is there isn't any water. There isn't a water line. So that's one of the obstacles, because you can't have grass if you don't have water to water it. You can't have trees, etc. So that's one of the other obstacles. And as Anna said, we had a meeting, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago maybe, and both the GS Coalition and Birdseed would be the ones to go to if you want to have something happen. And the park people, I believe, said that they would pay for the permitting and the insurance. We just need to let them know with enough advance notice so that they can do that. And that would alleviate the time that it takes from having to go through the city and get the permit and the okay. The park people would take care of that for us. And you're right, Anthony, Scott is very passionate about this. I'm more than delighted to be able to work on this process. And also what's going to happen is I don't exactly know who we is, because I don't want to do it, but somebody will, is to actually go out and talk to the community to ask them what they want in that space. Prior to it becoming a park, and when it becomes a park, what do they want to see there? Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. I see your hand up, AE.
Just quickly on the water that Angela was mentioning, I thought that there was a couple $100,000, I think, maybe not that much, put into providing plumbing when the tiny home village was there. I thought that infrastructure was going to remain, which that was part of long ago and far away when that was coming in, and the neighborhood was talking about what could be there after the tiny home village left. Part of the reassurance was that infrastructure would be left for plumbing and that kind of a thing. So this is a continuation of a conversation around that property that came out in the neighborhood planning process many years ago. And yes, the outcall that that Angela is talking about to get people involved, I think that the Birdseed and GS Coalition are going to be very adept. This goes, this is a much broader scope than the CAC meeting, of course, but I think that there's going to be a very robust engagement with many neighbors there, and there's a lot of ideas coming forward. And one thing I want us to all consider is whether or not we really have to wait for the city to hire a planner. There's lots of ways we can advance putting proposals on the table, and let's get creative out there, but that's a conversation for the broader neighborhoods.
AE, you are correct about the water line when the tiny homes were there, but the thing of it is, it was just going strictly towards where their trailer was. So for it to be able to expand, I guess when you do, what do you call that? When you water your grass?
Well, irrigation, Angela, you might be talking about irrigation, which is an extension.
Yes, that is what they would have to be able to do in that area. That line is still there, but that whole irrigation, that is the proper word, to be able to put it in through the whole site. And then they're also going to have to do, I don't know whose phone is on, but they also have to do remediation of the land next to it that's being purchased. They have to knock down that building and get rid of it and clear everything out, make sure that it's okay to use. Take down the fence. There's a lot to look at, but I mean, it's an exciting process. It's been empty for 24, 25 years. So the fact that we can actually have something in that space, and the fact that it was the community who put that pressure on the city to make sure that that happened, that is the most important thing, that it was community who did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Any further updates from the community? And that was a good discussion. Yeah, because I think it's a lot of good information and it's a lot of progress in the last year.
And I think it shows, to Angela's point, like when we can get community buy-in to something, all hands are in.
Yeah.
So I think that's
That's
really
gonna be a
exciting.
great parcel of land,
Mhm.
because it's much larger than just the tiny home space.
Mhm. Right?
Yeah. So let's move to the next agenda item, and that's Steve McNally talking about
There's no.
McNally,
Get that a lot.
but I'm gonna give you that
McDonald's, I
MC.
did that to me.
Yeah, I'm giving you the mic. Steve Nally.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Just providing a quick update. I think I have 3 minutes, so to be fast. We are in the kind of cone of silence of this project, unfortunately. We talked a lot about transparency, but we have to remain confidential of what we're seeing to uphold the competitive nature of the project. We did meet with, we did select 2 teams to move forward in the process. So we had 3 proposers, and we shortlisted, basically, we're moving forward with 2 stage 2 proposals. As you may recall, this is a 2-stage process. The first stage was mostly qualifications based. The second stage is where the teams are really spending some money, thinking about this, building their teams out, and they will be proposing concepts to us as part of stage 2. Last week, we had confidential one-on-one meetings, which is an opportunity to sit down with the teams and allow them to ask questions. These teams are really bringing it. They're really excited to work with us. They're really excited to work with community members about how to make this space what we've envisioned, integrating with the neighborhood, not just another building or another series of buildings, but being very thoughtful of the placement and how people move through the spaces and connect from Gloveville into Elyria, across the tracks, over to the Brighton corridor, how these buildings can really support that. So we're really excited about the conversation that we had last week. February 20th is when proposals are due back from these 2 teams. We will then go into the evaluation process, and we intend to select a team to sign a pre-development agreement with maybe end of March, early April. And then we can pull up the curtain and really start talking about this. And we have a whole year after that point to work through design, to work through better definition of the things that went into the RFP around community activation, community space, jobs, all of the things that went into that RFP. We can start to talk about them for the next year. At the end of that year, we will hopefully sign a development agreement and start construction. So there's a lot more discussion to come. There's a lot more community discussion here at CAC and the broader community. We want to work with you all on designing outreach programs and get input from you on how we reach more people in the community to provide input into that design as we step through it. So really excited. It's been a great project and process so far, and more to come on that. That's my update on the equestrian project. Any questions?
Are there questions about about the equestrian center and the process?
Is it like the proposals are gonna be shown in a confidential manner to the community, or it's gonna stay confidential until you pick one and then afterwards? Okay.
That's right. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the latter. We do have community representatives on the selection committee that have signed NDAs. And have committed themselves to confidentiality, and they will be seeing them and evaluating and providing input in the scoring process. But we risk, if we open it up and we show it, we risk that it leaks, the other team sees it, and they have a competitive advantage at that point. So unfortunately, we have to stay confidential.
Are you able to share who the community representative for that process was, or is that also confidential?
On the selection committee,
For like, because I think in previous, what are they called?
evaluation.
procurement, like processes, there's a community representative, and is that person made public?
So we have not made that public. People may know, but we are not sharing the individual members on the evaluation committee. Again, for the purpose of trying to not create an advantage for any one team that may hear who's on the committee. The committee will go through interviews, but that's after we've received the proposals. So the intent is to not share. We do have 2 members that represent the community on the evaluation committee. I wish I could just tell you everything. I mean, I want to.
Or?
They are volunteers.
Okay.
And remind me, is there a stipend for participation on?
No, we didn't have one specified.
Call for volunteers.
Yes, there was a call for yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's close, like, if I wanna volunteer, like, I can sign up.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
No, it's
Well,
like-
not
it's-
one
it's-
that- not a future one.
Okay.
Additional
Yeah,
procurements you can.
yeah, we reached out, we opened it, we asked for participation.
Mhm. Okay.
And frankly, we heard from very few people. So
Oh.
we'd love to hear more on future procurements.
Speaking of future procurements, Cup North?
Yes, I'm still writing the RFP. I'm closer than I've ever been.
You're getting better with your responses. I like
That's
that.
how positive.
That's good, Steve.
Yeah, I've had to explain myself several rounds now. I do not want to go back to another board meeting in February and without it being released. So I'm really working hard over the next several weeks to get it out. We have procurement documents that were written for very basic services, like snow removal or landscaping services on our campus. And then we wrote an equestrian center hotel parking garage procurement, which is really complicated and several hundred pages. And neither of those work for the Cup North project. It's more like equestrian, but it's just not that complicated. So I first did a save as on our landscaping RFP and realized that was the wrong move. So then I did a save as on the equestrian. So I'm calling that. And also I don't have any support on Cup North. I'm writing it myself where we had a lot of support on equestrian. So I'm making excuses here, but that's what I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Have the excuses been bought?
You should just sit much closer I've ever been.
That's great.
Got a perfect
Right,
answer.
and then you just.
mic it up.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Do you have your volunteers for that yet, or that part hasn't opened yet?
Yes, we did the call at the same time for
Okay.
that. Yes. We do have our volunteers for that.
Great.
There will be additional procurements that happen on the campus this year, and we always make sure we reach out to the CAC at first and ask if they want to volunteer. So there will be additional ones that are happening this year related to campus services. So more, as soon as we learn when they're being released, we want to make sure there's a community representative on those selection committees.
Anthony, do you want to update us on this?
Sure, I'll be brief. So, as I had shared, I think it was actually in November because we did outreach in December, in partnership. Again, I want to thank Slavica. We were able to secure, 6 sponsors that, helped us purchase. We purchased 300 tickets for stock show events and rodeos this year. Those free tickets also included $20 food vouchers. And the response was overwhelming. Towards the end, I was getting emails and I didn't have any tickets left to distribute to the community. So I just know that next year we'll get additional sponsors and that we can increase the purchase of tickets for a community. I actually delivered every set of tickets to residents, and I will say that it was very diverse geographically. I got to know the community even better. It was residents over on 44th and 45th between Washington and Lincoln. some homes along Lincoln, homes, near, Argo Park, homes, near the 5090 Rec Center, and then homes on the east side of the campus, around the Johnson Rec Center, the Valdez Perry Library. I think for us just deciding we wanted to do more, for the community this year that hadn't been done yet, we were able to distribute 300 complimentary tickets, and again, just the responses from those that attended, they were really happy that they got to attend the stock show. Additionally, we, the National Western Center, rented a horse-drawn wagon for the stock show parade, and we got to invite kids from Swansea Elementary and Garden Place Academy. They got to ride in the parade, which was really cool. It was a little cold, but I think the kids had a really good time. And what was great about how the kids were selected from Swansea Elementary School was there were 6 kids that had perfect attendance from the first day of school to the holiday break. And those 6 kids, I think there were 7 actually, those 7 kids were invited to participate in the stock show parade. And lastly, of course, we made sure that we highlighted the stock show's community day as well. And then finally, the National Western Center, CSU Spur, the stock show, and the SSA group, we hosted the community reception and rodeo during the stock show as well. First time that we've done this, and it's not the last time. We're looking forward to how we can grow this program next year. And then now going to begin working with nonprofit organizations, the rec centers, the library, around an Earth Day event on the campus. So we're beginning, much like the planning committee that was created around the trunk or treat event for the community. It's our plan to coordinate a community-wide event on the campus around Earth Day. What that looks like, we don't know. We're going to meet early February to begin planning of that event. So that's the update.
And that might be a great place for Doug and whatever you all doing with the garden forest. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about all the areas where like the community partners call that like we couldn't have today.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly where all those collaborative moments of like, oh, what about a tabling here? Not only does it make sense just to table because it's community related, but actually these projects align. And that way Doug doesn't have to come in through so many avenues to the same location, the same, it's the meetings can almost double up.
Yeah.
So absolutely, great idea.
Wasn't it Angela's idea for the parade?
Yes, it was Angela's idea.
Angela, I remember sitting in this room and you saying, wouldn't it be nice to
At a
have?
CBC meeting, yes.
Oh, it was a CBC meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was Angela's idea.
Want to give you
Yes,
credit for
and
that.
I was at the parade and I screamed and jumped up and down and cried when the float went by, and the kids were so happy to hear somebody screaming out Globeville, Swansea. Yeah, it was exciting.
Great, yeah.
I think that was the day before the big freeze.
Yeah.
It was really cold, yeah.
Yep. Not flat.
Okay,
Thank you.
so if we could pull up the slides, Steve, just so that we can go to that section of the agenda. So we're going to move to the roles and responsibilities and reaching consensus on the final language. And if we go to the next slide, Steve. Okay. So what we'd like to do is now received in your email, a notice of the meeting, a marked up copy, the one that's all redlined, and then we took the red lines out and no track changes in it. So you have a final document that is designed for discussion only. And what we hope to do tonight is to reach consensus. So any changes or comments, have we woven in all the best ideas, and are we addressing all the key concerns? And find something that works for everyone. And that really is what reaching consensus is. consensus is not looking for unanimity. It's really looking for things that we can basically agree to. And not all types of disagreements stop us from reaching consensus. So I put on some common understandings of consensus up here on your screen. That there's a set of options in a consensus, that there's an agreement with the proposal. There's some that have some reservations, but still can move forward with it. And you let the proposal go ahead, but you want to make sure that the group is aware that you aren't completely happy, but you're going to put some effort into helping change it as we move along. There's a stand aside. That means you just want to object. You don't want to block the proposal. It means that you won't help to implement the decision, but you're willing for the group to go ahead with it. And you might stand aside because you disagree with the proposal, but you don't want to let it not move forward. And then a block is that it stops the proposal from going in. You have a fundamental objection. It isn't, I don't really like it, or I like the other idea better. This, whenever there's a block on a consensus, that means that we can't go forward until we can reach some way of amending or finding new language that would help that individual who stands as a block to reach either a stand aside, reservation, or agreement with the proposal. So consensus, again, you don't have to love every piece of it. You can disagree with some of it, but those are your options there. Agreement with the proposal, full agreement, love it, want to move forward with it, I support it. Reservations, I have some reservations, I want to put some energy in. Stand aside, I don't want to block it, but I'm not going to put any energy in it. And block, I need it in order for me to go forward. If you're, is there anybody who objects to sort of guide of consensus? AE?
Yes, regarding standing aside, I really do feel that is not a constructive way of presenting stand aside. I would encourage the group rather to say, you stand aside in the concept of how Quakers use it, which is far less oppositional. And what it basically means is that those who object that can't fully go along with it will stand aside in order for the process to go forward, but everyone will honor that there's something else that needs to be examined to find out. People who stand aside need to be given validity. They're not necessarily oppositional or wanting to not put energy into it. I think that is not a helpful way of presenting that. I think many times all of us, even if we are confident of something going forward, realize that there are some unknowns. So stand aside can be a far more collaborative position, to be a reminder that the whole process has to follow the impacts of the decision, and everyone participates together for adjustments. So I'm kind of wanting that wording to not be imprinted too deeply in people regarding how you've put it there.
Yeah, thank you, AE. That's a good addition. It's incorporated a little bit into reservations, but I appreciate that language, and we'll keep that in mind as we move forward through the document, and define it as if you feel like you want to express an objection and want to help to make sure that it moves forward, but with acknowledgement of your concerns, then please just state them the way they are. Don't get lost in these definitions, because they're just a framework and we can call them any way we want. But AE, thank you for helping to define that better. So if we take a look at the history, of the final document without track changes, because track changes will make us all of our I's cross collectively and independently. I'm wondering if, now that you've had a chance for a couple of months to take a look at this, do you think we've reached all of the concerns? Are there pieces that need to be added, subtracted? Are there big holes, little holes? changes that we'd like to make right now. And now would be the opportunity to do it. We'd like to be able, in the spirit of what we talked about earlier in the icebreaker, really moving forward with this process, being able to conclude it this evening if possible. So any comments on things that might be missing or things you'd like to change?
Could we review the voting? I just want to make sure the CSUs for building have a voting component. I was informed that CSUs for those entities in this group. So they
I
have
think-
a voting. Is that
No,
As one of the partners.
not yet.
right?
With the change, there would be,
Okay.
as outlined on this.
Can you repeat
Okay,
the
you
question? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what the
Great,
question.
thank you. She wanted to know whether in this, tonight, whether CSU has a vote at the table.
Well, I meant also how it's written in the new format.
In the new format, it
Because
does.
originally, I was told.
In the original, document, and Slavica is an expert on this,
Oh, sure.
as is AE and others, that, the, Western Stock Show, the City and County of Denver, the CSU, Museum of Nature and Science and History Colorado were not voting members. They were original partners, but they were not voting members. This group discussed it about 2 meetings ago, I think, or at least the last meeting, and agreed that they would like these partners to become voting members. So it would change with this document if it's approved.
Yeah, from the context that you're part of the community, you're here, you know, CSU is on the campus is here, and, you know, the idea is for any community member to be able to participate if they make the commitment, right?
Right. Anything that you'd like to see changed from this document as it stands right now? I can't see hands, so if you do have a hand on in the Zoom room, I won't be, there it is. AE, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for anybody else is there anybody else that is trying to say anything? I can't really see who's in the room. It maybe would be good for folks to, well, never mind, because my sound was off, so you probably introduced yourself. I have some concerns in the continuity of this document. I also feel like some of it is not worded accurately out of a precise knowledge of what the actual National Western Center partnership is. The first paragraph, the committee continues in its advisory capacity to the National Western Center and its partners, including the City and County of Denver, the National Western Stock Show, and CSU Spur. Well, that's problematic. It's not the National Western Stock Show that's the partner. That National Western Stock Show leases property now. It is the Western Stock Show Association that is the signed capital partner in the authority. It's Colorado State University as an institution that is the capital partner. Spur is one building among 3. So in the course of this, somehow that morphed. And I think we need to block this for now and get the continuity of what the actual factual
Can we
is on
just
that.
take the language, AE, on the page 2 of the document, and substitute in there Western Stock Show, City and County of Denver, Colorado State University, Denver Museum of Nature and Science and History, Colorado, into that paragraph? Would that resolve your concern in that paragraph?
If you're talking about the authority board, if you're talking about the National Western Center Citizens Advisory Capacity, advising the authority board, it is the capital partners, the Western Stock Show Association, the City of Denver, and the Colorado State University. The founding partners include Denver Museum of Nature and Science. So this is the thing, is that I hate to be a stickler, but this is how the general constituency understands how this massive project is structured. So I don't know what to say. I feel like
language.
I understand, AE. I think
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just put the language
I
in
feel
there.
like what I'd like us to do is not be, I'm going to say from the very beginning, especially because the participation in this particular meeting for all the people that I'm glad to see here that are neighbors and, you know, residents and constituents is very low. I really feel like we ought to spiff this up, talk about these things and get an absolute final version and not finalize this tonight. I think, and there's also Caroline had some concerns. I think she emailed you guys. She was unable to make it tonight, much to her disappointment, because Clinica Tepeyac has scheduled a board meeting at the same night. So, but sure, that could be reworked. Just a couple other quick things under duties. I think the congruency on the first bullet provides advice and input to the National Western Center Authority and its board members regarding projects and issues related to the development of the National Western Center. I'm an advocate, as I know Steve knows, for being very clear. It's the National Western Center campus. And this is an arena that we've struggled with to get communicating across. And I think we're going to move more generally out in the neighborhoods here to try and help each other understand that the entire organism of the project is the National Western Center campus. And we can work on that clarification. Down at the last bullet under duties, works to ensure that the National Western Center build out and programming meaningfully benefits. I was concerned about the term adjacent, especially because we've got the lovely nesting term in there. Thank you for stepping up with that, Steve. I would rather that we keep that concept instead of saying adjacent. Let's say meaningfully benefits the impacted neighborhoods and communities in the impacted neighborhoods and communities in the short and long terms. That even opens it up to a very broad sense of how all the communities in Denver are impacted by this. It was the Denver voters as a whole that started it. Under membership, this is an area where I want to re-listen to the tapes. I'm not sure what we're talking about, the contrast between voting and consensus, but one thing I'm unclear in this sentence, the National Western Center Citizens Advisory Committee is a diverse group that represents many interests. The voting members, can we say the voting membership of the committee includes but is not limited to the National Western Center Authority, GES community board members, residents, community groups, and business leaders located in Global area and Swansea, as well as statewide partners. So I think that can be cleaned up. The National Western Center MOU partners and facilitators are recognized as voting members. That's good. Until we have a proportionally larger formal involvement of resident and actual GES businesses and residents, et cetera, I'm concerned about the balance that was stricken in the original proportional voting may be lost. And then one question I have is in the next sentence below the bulleted MOU partners, any individual may attend the CAC Plus meetings and is encouraged to do so because continuity is important for the work of the community. Is that supposed to be committee? Anyone wishing to be a voting stakeholder of the CAC Plus can do so by attending at least 2 meetings, et cetera. So I'm wondering if that was meant to be committee. And then at the end, under communication, there's just communication. I think the last sentence on the first paragraph, on occasion, members may be contacted via phone. I think it's supposed to be if an issue is time sensitive. But anyway, the other major concern I have is, and I think this is kind of a sort of a sweeping, what is this committee and how what is the continuity of this? I'm a sort of subtle shift from NWC CAC to CAC Plus without any formality. With sometimes it's referred to as the CAC. There was resistance to the effort to completely separate the past from what the authority office was assuming to move forward, starting at the beginning when this was transferred to the authority. I don't think that there's an integrity in what should be a very solid process document to gloss over something here to, regarding what, I think there was a misperception carried forward. I don't know how to broach that conversation in the process, but it just doesn't feel like a congruent document with process integrity to just kind of switch the reference to what the committee is. And my preference would be if this were a general policy or a general orientation or a general guidance. It's fine to have contact information. Anthony, please do not take this personally, but if this is a document, a general document, that the contact information should be in my assessment of how to make people at ease with an office. It should be a more neutral institutional contact. Contact. Put contact the community engagement person or something like that. This is a. Anyway, I think hopefully someone will understand that. I don't want to belabor that, but anyway, so those are concerns, and I would really encourage this to be finalized more formally and clearly for a final reading, and for us to be able to talk with one or other about it and circulate back to the substantial number of people that aren't here this evening and go forward. It does matter to people who's at the table over time and how these things are done thoroughly. So those are my notes.
Let me go through some of the, I think I captured all your suggestions. So for everybody who's tracking this, AE is suggesting that there's a rework of that first paragraph to better capture who those partners are. And I think, Steve, you have some language there that might help. Under duties, it's adding campus to the last three words of the first bullet, National Western Center campus, to the last bullet on that page that benefits the impacted neighborhoods and communities instead of adjacent.
And may I just say, if you're gonna put campus on the first bullet, I think you should probably put it on this last bullet too.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And then I have a quick comment on the first on membership.
Okay.
Just since you refer to the voting stakeholders as stakeholders, maybe you should say a diverse group of stakeholders, just so that there's continuity in that section.
Okay. I was just gonna ask whether you thought in the next sentence, it should say the voting stakeholders of the group, or should that be membership of the group?
Use both,
consistent.
use both terms.
Stakeholders and membership.
Well, no, I'm just saying you use both terms. Up top, you say the voting members, and then down below, you say. Stakeholders.
That's why I'm asking, should that be voting stakeholders of the group to be consistent with I think, Ann, this was your suggestion a couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
I'm getting just a little lost. I'm having a little trouble hearing Ann.
Sorry, Abe, we're on membership page 2, the first section there where Steve is highlighted, and
we're talking about AE, this is Ann, and we're just talking about, since we referred to the voting members as stakeholders below, the voting stakeholders, we should also refer to them as stakeholders up above. Yeah. So a diverse group of stakeholders that represent many interests, the voting stakeholders of the group, etc.
I understand what you're saying, Ann. One concern I have is that sentence, NWCCAC, if we're going to use the term NWCCAC and honor that congruency, but that is undetermined in this document so far as I can see. But at any rate, if is a diverse group that represents many interests, I feel like that feels a little bit more open and inviting to people that may not have defined themselves as stakeholders formally, but there's something about that that I think implies some entry points for people. And if I don't want to overuse the term stakeholder, I'm going along with stakeholders, but
yeah. So
you know.
AE, the reason why I brought that up a long time ago is because I think that there may be people who might want to join this group that may not necessarily be, in these neighborhoods, but they feel that they have an interest in it. And do you want to exclude them? So that's why the stakeholder is someone who may feel that they have, some ability to integrate with, an opportunity or some sort of thing like that. So, but if the people, the community are put off by that term stakeholder, that's a whole nother thing.
Well, I'm not, yeah. Go ahead, somebody was.
What do other people think? Do you have any preference to stakeholder or members?
Well, let me say, while people are thinking, stakeholder is a term that I'm comfortable with, in that it's a person with an interest or concern in something, but I am aware that within the neighborhoods, being embedded in the planning process and many conversations, stakeholders is a term that is very often lands with people in the constituency within the residential and small business arena as somebody who has a what's the word, equity interest, a vested interest in the level of economics and equity. That's my concern, and I regret not bringing that up. I remember the conversation when you brought it up, Ann, and I feel like your direction was valid. I just am aware that it's kind of like maybe we should define for ourselves for the document what stakeholder means. When you have a stakeholder, that's, I think it's a gold rush term actually, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a land rush term. But anyway, I'm just aware, and I myself had to check out that word to feel comfortable with it at a depth. So I was just trying not to overuse it.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want a term in here that puts people off, like, oh, that's not me. So if
we can reclaim it too. We can reclaim it by defining it too. I'm okay with that.
Just take out stakeholders and put back in members.
Well,
I didn't. To me, I feel like stakeholders is, I don't know, people that are involved in the process, that they are accountable or something. So I don't mind it, but again, English is not my first language. So
yeah,
there's that. I was gonna say, is there an addendum or like a glossary of terms in this?
yeah.
Well, I think we could. May I suggest it was something like this? I think it's fine to put an asterisk and put a definition below or something. We can reclaim a term, but I'm just aware we cannot be nonchalant about it.
No.
And especially when we're using a term as frequently in the environment that we're in. So why don't we just consider bulleting it and let it season here, and not bulleting it. I mean, if you put an asterisk and said we can put our own definition.
It's not a good word.
So
I can't
you can
hear.
see that we use it several times, and I deliberately went through and took out members and put in stakeholders. We can add a definition of what stakeholders mean so that everybody's really clear of that. I'm sorry?
You took members out? You took member out?
What in the highlights, do you see the voting members? That members was used throughout the whole document, the original document. If you go back through the track changes, and wherever I saw the word members, I changed it based on our discussion last time to stakeholders. And this was the only two places that I left members in, and I can change that to stakeholders as well.
I think it should be fine. I mean, if the rest of the document says stakeholders.
Well, they can all change.
And then we can add,
How about if I just change it always to stakeholders and with the definition at the bottom. Okay.
I wish I could see who is speaking, and I don't know if I've got the full view on. If anybody has any
I'm Tracy.
clues
That was Tracy.
from.
I'm a neighbor.
She's a community
Hi, neighbor.
resident.
It's, I thought I read, yeah, I thought it was. All right, so yeah, the key is for the meaning to be clear, and there's several ways to do that.
Okay, I will add a gloss, I'll add an asterisk with the definition and then we can take a look at the definition. Moving along with the suggestions that AE made, because in the paragraph below the bulleted, partners and facilitators, just an edit of because continuity is important for the work of the committee, then in referring to CAC, so I'll make it CAC plus, NWC CAC plus, I'll make that change throughout the document. So it's consistently referred to. The next suggestion that AE had was on the third page, an editing of changing is to if on the paragraph around communication, and then changing process for feedback, putting a generic contact in there instead of Anthony's direct email. So aside from the first paragraph, is there anybody who disagrees with the changes that we've just outlined? Is there anybody who wants to stand aside, or I'm sorry, using that term, who just wants to be neutral in this?
Catherine? Oh, I'm sorry. Was somebody else talking there? I thought I heard somebody. Go ahead,
Yeah, I
Anna.
just have one comment. If we scroll down 1/2 centimeter here, I'm not saying I'm standing aside or anything like that. I do just want to say this sentence, it's okay, right there.
Where?
Sorry, I didn't realize that was you, Steve. I would have named you. I was like, wait, is it Anthony? And you were both. I was like, wait. The CAC is a group of community members from the GES neighborhoods. I just want to point out that it is hard every time I see that line for me not to say something like, if it is the case where we can do that asterisk, like what is a community member, right? Because if we're counting neighbors in the room, I'm so happy to welcome Tracy. Tracy, Sandra, myself, and then and Alma. And then we have the periphery, which is partners that work here every single day, that have businesses, that run things. So I just want to be clear, because if we call the CAC a group of community members, what'd you say?
I'm periphery.
Well, do you have an address here, sir? No, I'm just kidding. But this is a good point. Like, if I were a community member, and that's why I know AE and I are always talking about like community. What does that mean? If we don't define what community member means, then I as a neighbor might come in and say, 1, 2, 3, 4. No, this isn't a neighbor meeting. Well, no, and it's community. Okay, well then 1, 2, 3, 4. How many people work here? Now we're including community. So I would just say, if we're adding to the vein of asterisk, that's the other one that in this whole document I would really love to define, like community. Community can include neighbors, people with businesses here, people with personal interests here. Like, let's define that. And that way, if we ever say neighbors, we're talking about specifically people that live in or around 80216 or the GES areas or the National Western Center, I guess in this National Western Center campus in this case. Like, if I think of neighbors, I think National Western Center campus adjacent. If I think of community members, okay, we've got Joe, we've got Anthony, you know what I mean? But it's just one that every time we scroll past this in the document, I'm nervous to the same point about the comment about stakeholders. If I were a community member, a neighbor, seeing that, I'd go, who is community members? And it just isn't defined in that paragraph. So just before.
So should we define it, or should that say a group of stakeholders, or should it?
Perhaps, I think, as long as, if it says community members, I think we define it. If we want to say stakeholders there and have it be the first place.
And then because we have a definition of
There you go.
stakeholders.
And we
That's
already
why I came up with that idea of stakeholders in the first place, because this is gonna be a document that is around for a long time.
Right.
And there could be people who want to be part of this that don't necessarily.
Sure.
here.
Shannon, you kind of just define stakeholders, actually, the way you described what you said.
Right, exactly.
Beginning
People
of
with
it.
personal, sure, and I think,
Neighborhood, community, et cetera.
you can always put the literal Webster, I've done this in documents, I'll put the Webster's dictionary and then the cultural understanding, for
Would you
example.
be willing to write a cultural understanding on Word?
Sure, I would love,
Okay,
would love help with that though, I think.
Yeah, a cultural understanding and a Webster's, I'm having trouble hearing the floor there, what you're talking about. Just maybe slow down
I
a
was just
little
saying
bit.
that if, I was just saying that if, I almost made a joke here, but I forget sometimes I don't need to make a joke. When, in the case, and I'll do it. In the case of the CAC as a group of members, I would recommend replacing community members with stakeholders. And in related to defining stakeholders, I don't mind putting Webster's definition of stakeholders as our asterisk, but I also don't think it's a bad idea to include stakeholders in this context includes neighbors, people with, that's what I'm, now we're need to get that right.
So could we ask you and AE to come up with a definition that we could add as an asterisk to.
I know, I can't say asterisks either. I have to practice it.
Well,
I,
that support, I'm okay with doing that, and I would like to an email communication before the next meeting so that it doesn't have to be redlined by next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay.
AE, did you, hey, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to let you know the sound is breaking up for me, so I'm hoping I'm understanding. I don't recommend Webster's dictionary, but we can discuss that. But I also feel like I'm not, stakeholder has a danger. I had somebody who owns Section 8 house that doesn't even housing that doesn't live, that's basically practically out of the country, say, well, I'm a stakeholder, and there's some difficulty with this individual. Even wanting them not to be Section 8 housing owners anymore. So stakeholders is a very dynamic term. I'm not resonant with replacing community with stakeholder. When Anna mentions that she and I are always talking about defining community, with me it's a little bit different. It's more, there's so many singular, the community as a, we've contacted the community, that singular noun is something I will perpetually object to, that I think is more public relation optics verbiage. The use of the CAC as a group of community members from the GES neighborhoods, I'm resonant with that, and I do think that members there might be another word for it. To me, the GS neighborhoods are every single ounce of territory in those neighborhood boundaries. There's no adjacency. Even the National Western Center is, as we put it, thank you, Steve, nested in there. So I'm not, I want to be careful with that, not losing that there. But I do feel like the CAC is a group of the CSC is there are other ways to put it. Let me put it to you this way. Let's take some time, and I'm happy for you and I to put our heads together, come up with some responses. But I just wanted to go on record saying that we're having a literal dictionary and a cultural definition may not be the binary that's going to solve this, because it's so inclusive and transcendent of that. So we'll talk. It'll be a fun conversation, and we can come up with something.
Thank you for both of you for agreeing to do that. So we'll have one glossary, we'll have a glossary of one term of which would be
well, actually, I think that, as I'm looking at this, there are like different terms like NWCA, NWC. Maybe it might be worth kind of defining some of those as well.
I usually try to do it in parentheses, but I can do it also in a glossary.
Yes,
Well,
I think who they are, and I mean, it
Okay.
might be a little bit more informational. It's an opportunity to be a little bit more informational within the document. And then I have a question because the CAC is referred to as NWC, CAC, and CAC plus in various parts of the document.
Yeah, that was one of the things I'm gonna correct,
Okay.
because I think
Well-
that's more typo on my part. It's NWC CAC plus.
Yeah, and I guess the way this is written, the CAC is a group of communities from the GES neighborhood, so it does exclude anyone else that is not within the neighborhoods, the GES neighborhoods, and I guess that was decided.
Well, you all had, just to remind you, is that in the membership, you also included, and we had a long discussion about statewide partners, in case they had an interest in
Right.
within the GES.
So that's,
geographic area.
this kind of defines it as only people from the GES neighborhoods. So I don't know if that might want to be.
Well, it could be included in the stakeholder definition, maybe, on the.
I think that that's kind of part of, and I want to make sure that I'm capturing, I think a glossary will be helpful for so many of those pieces. Because you can asterisk your heart away, I'm not gonna try to say it better than that. And you can do, and you can over define, and that's okay. Anytime someone is confused about a term, and I also agree, especially with this term may be referenced in several different ways, can be an asterisk, you know what I mean, when referring to this. But if we are specific, and I think that when we are being specific, that's where that glossary is helpful as well. When referring specifically to NWCA, we are referring to the National Western Center Authority. I know if Brad were here, he'd be like, thank you. You know, because that's a very specific entity in comparison to National Western Stock Show or Campus or Partners. So I think, why don't we just go full send on a glossary, and then have fun with how we define terms in there. That would be
Okay,
good.
well,
And then you
that
can
was
just,
great. I
you
would
just,
really appreciate that.
you can just use capitalized words, and we don't have to use an asterisk. Or the plural of asterisks.
So, Catherine,
He was trying to make a joke, but we don't get it.
Anthony, can you actually just excuse him?
Not helpful. No, I'm serious, just use capitalized terms, that's typically what it.
Cool.
And then I updated our partner names, that's the correct.
Okay.
City County Denver, Western Stockton Association, and Colorado City University.
AE, do you see that part?
well,
That
I feel like, I just want to say, I think we're overburdening this little document with something that is a general responsibility of the authority office and has been for many years, and was the responsibility of all of us engaged prior to the authority office, which is to provide a reference point that where people can check terms out. The document itself can have a full little a couple asterisks, but I think the deeper so that can be dealt with. This is a reflection of the this is a reflection of the communication having not matured among all of us and the entire sets of folks in the neighborhoods and the entire city as to understanding. And even with what's going on here in this building with the staff and the facilitation and that kind of, it's not instinctive to catch these things. So let's just acknowledge that some clarification has to happen. We don't have to, and it has to be posted and made clear. And it doesn't have to be the burden of this particular document. It's a general issue. Now, the one thing I want to say, though, that I really want to go on record with is this, what to me is a disharmony in the NWC CAC plus. And I recognize that the process of the NWCAC from its very beginning until now has always had shortcomings, and I feel like that a misperception was created when this was transferred to the authority for, I guess, administration. I'm not sure what the function is exactly. I guess administration. That this was something new. We were going to do this now because the community wasn't welcome, or it wasn't, with prior to this, and it was definitely the NWCCAC was politicized in ways that I felt were counterproductive, and it's a discussion. But the National Western Center Citizens Advisory Committee is exactly that. And if we're going to put a plus on there, so that's another thing to define, because it also implies a historical deficiency that I think was used to try and bifurcate the past from the present in a way that disrupts the continuum and eliminates some accountability. So I'm saying that on record, however this document turns out, for discussion, because these have always been open meetings and they have not always been successful. I appreciate Sandra's mentioned she came to a few meetings or a couple and was not comfortable. Some of us have come to meetings for years and with different levels of comfort, and have tried to get people to come and go, to come and come back. And there's been many efforts in many directions. So I just want to recognize the lack of continuity and that there's an incongruence there. So however that goes on in this document, that's going to have to be explained as well.
Thank you, AE. All right, so we've added a couple of changes. Using the word stakeholders with its definition, and Anna and AE are going to take an effort at defining that includes both Webster and a cultural.
Not Webster. Okay.
It's going to be It's going to be clarified within the best context of meaning and understanding. That's the only way I'll approach it.
We'll trust you to do that.
Thank you.
And then we'll have a new draft with those. Any opposition, anybody who is concerned enough to say they couldn't put a thumbs up on this, anything that, knowing that we have one more iteration to go. You're fine with going forward to the next iteration, which will hopefully be the last iteration.
And once iterated, it will be on the National Western Stock site and shared. Yes. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, now that's confusing what you're saying, Catherine. Could you clarify that process? Going to the next iteration is different from saying that we're going to finish it, bring it back to the next meeting, and make sure that there's a consensus. So let's be clear with what you're saying.
That's what I meant. Thank you for clarifying me. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I feel good about going forward toward trying to finalize it, go with the intention being to do the best we can to finalize it, recognizing that I want everyone who wants to be involved in this conversation, especially those that have been and aren't here, to have an opportunity to respond. And that requires each of us getting out there and doing what we can to get back in touch with them.
And for full transparency, Caroline did reach out to me and to Brad and to Sandra that she was not able to attend the meeting tonight, and that she did have concerns that representatives from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science and History, Colorado, were not a part of this process, even though they are identified in this document. And I will continue to try to reach out to those individuals. I've been unsuccessful to date, but I will continue to try to reach out. I did actually identify someone at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, but they have not returned 3 of my phone calls. So I have a different avenue that I'm going to pursue. But we will make sure that to address Caroline's concerns, that they are brought into this process. And full transparency, that was what her concerns were.
Okay.
May I say, out of fairness to the History Colorado and the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, whatever's happening now, that throughout the formation and as MOU partners, both those institutions were devoted members of the effort for many years. And I think there did come a point where there was a breakdown in how the cohesion of the membership or of the partners moved from the MOU structure to the framework structure. It's a process that I think can be looked at historically and understood. And I don't want either institution to be stigmatized as seeming to be uncooperative or uninterested. And I think any and all of us are welcome to have conversations with folks we know at both institutions to encourage involvement and find out kind of where people stand on this. So just on the behalf of both those institutions, let's acknowledge that there's a process. Anthony is not getting a response. So I think anything any of us can do to have conversations is good. And then, we can revitalize that possibly, although their involvement doesn't have to flow through the CAC if that's something that is an obstacle. So just for the record.
Hey, Anthony, are you communicating with Tina Martinez from the Denver Museum of Nature and Science?
No, I was given somebody else, a gentleman who's their director of community outreach and engagement.
Okay, thank you.
So it was not Tina, but if you have Tina's contact information, if you'd share that with me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Thank you, Armando. There's chat and I don't want to be sure, I want to be sure that we acknowledge what's in the chat.
Let's see if I can get there.
We're up to date.
Are we up to date? Okay. Any other comments? We know what our next steps are. We'll come back, take a look at the additions and see if we can reach consensus at our next meeting. Thank you, everybody. It was a really good discussion, really helpful in terms of finalizing the document, making it and taking it to where it should be.
Yeah, because the audience for this document are potential community.
Exactly. Yep. So when people say, and you've all raised this to Anthony, to me, and to Brad, is like, what is the role of the CAC? Now we have a document that actually describes that.
He's just that.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
What's going on?
No more comments.
Joe, you have to move it.
Oh, it's me? I'm
No,
reading this? Oh,
we just want to isolate.
that's a bad influence.
Anna said something good tonight. It's like, I should know. Good joke.
Great.
It's okay, we're.
Is there more information that I can share, Anthony?
Nope.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna get 20 minutes back.
Catherine, I just want to quickly ask you, how are you noting in the list of discussions, the discussion of NWC CAC versus CAC plus versus NWC CAC plus for the record, and the background and the depth to that kind of that seesawing?
Yeah. A, to your point, I think we're gonna need to do some research because when I arrived in July of 2022, I was informed that CAC plus. I don't know what conversations occurred when CRO and Associates transitioned it over to the authority, the facilitation of the CAC. So I think we need to do some. We do have meeting recordings, so we can certainly look and make sure that we know how it evolved before we finalize it in this document.
Well, I think it's very good to revisit discussions, and having been a participant, and I think there were some others, the participants, I can say that and I thought you were there as part of initiating the concept, but possibly not, Anthony. But the CAC plus was because the community had not been involved with it before, which was, it's definitely the process has been imperfect, but I think, sure, that's the reason I brought it up, is for us to have a conversation about it. And for everyone that's been engaged in the thinking, rather than just calling it research, let's just call forward what the discussion was and look at what was in the room and what wasn't in the room when that discussion happened, et cetera, and go forward from there. But basically, what I was saying, regardless of how it ends up, it has to be explained. And so therefore, let's do it. And I just don't want it to be explained in a way that stigmatizes this committee at any stage of its life. That's the concern overall. So I'll just say that.
I think everybody would
That's
agree
all.
with you, AE, that no one wants to stigmatize anybody, so all the
Well-
suggestions that are made tonight are really good ones. And I think we have a place to move forward from. So, any other comments? Nope, okay.
Anthony, do you have the list of people you invited to the community event at the stock show?
Do you mean the community reception?
Yeah,
It was everybody, I mean, I can verbalize who it was if you'd like, or I can put it in an email, whichever you prefer.
I think it would be good to I have it a record. I want to thank the people that invited me as their plus ones because I was not included in that invitation. So.
I sent it
it's-
to the CAC plus, that was the original list that I started with.
Well,
That's what-
wherever it was, I understand you dropped by the library and mentioned it to them at some point, but I'm not going to belabor the point, but I think this is an area of transparency that we need to work on a little bit, and let's just put it on for discussion. This is an informally formed group. It is definitely the case. I've described myself as a vested observer. I'm living through a process relative to this that's understandable in terms of the engagement I have or don't have, but nonetheless, I think it's important that we bring the more transparency to the center and maybe start auditing how the things are how the various approaches are creating momentum, whatever they are, so that everyone can understand that. So just for future discussion and exchange.
Thank you, James. Okay, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. 15 minutes back.